Coming up on today's Locked On Senators, we made it. We've counted down from 60, and today we are going to get to the top 3 most valuable players in the Senators organization.
And the Senators rookies are on the ice practicing. We're going to take a look at all the names available on the list. We finally got that list, Ross, but there is one major absent player.
We'll get into that and more. This is the Locked On Senators podcast. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
I'm Jake Sanderson, and you're listening to Locked On Senators podcast.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Welcome inside episode 874 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. A reminder that you can follow the show on Twitter at Sens Central, on Instagram, LockedOn.Senators. We are free and available on YouTube. And if you're listening to the podcast, make sure you leave a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast catcher. Today is Thursday, September 14th, and Pilsy, the Senators made a blockbuster trade ahead of rookie tournament, sending Jakub Novak to the Montreal Canadiens in exchange for future considerations.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what all these future considerations Pierre Dorion has lined up and is just waiting to cash in on what all these values will be. But hey, happy trails to Mr. Novak.
Yeah, it's one of those like IOUs. You know, back in the day when I was working at restaurants, the owner said, hey, just put a couple dollars in this jar and you can have a drink after work. And one day he went to go, we needed to buy bread next door, and he opened it. And it was just a handful of paper that said IOUs. And that's what future considerations is for the Ottawa Senators. We didn't even have Jakub Novak on our organizational value rankings this year. Last year, he was 61st out of 64, 7th round pick from 2018. Heck, he had already signed an AHL deal for the Laval Rockets. So the Sens doing him a solid, getting his NHL rights to the Canadiens as well. So happy trails to Jakub Novak.
And Ross, honestly, I'd rather have future considerations than any player from the Habs organization anyway. So that works out for me.
I think it was our guy Sens Chirp who said that's the best they had to offer.
Yeah, accurate.
Who is the best the Sens have to offer? We're not going to make you wait. We don't have any topic before. We are going to wrap up today's show discussing the rookie camp and, well, the players that are there and the one that isn't. And hopefully we have an update by then as we're recording here just before 11 a.m. So the Sens rookies are on the ice right now. But we have to get to the countdown because we have gone all in on the organizational value rankings, the 4th annual on Locked On Senators. We've counted down from 60. And if you've missed any of them, on Saturday, they'll all be up individually. But right now we have all the way up until 12. Jonas Korpisalo there, the top 11 coming on Saturday. Or you could just listen to the episodes this week. But we are 1, 2, 3. Pilsy, how difficult was it to draw the line after 3? Because we did move it from the beginning, from when we initially made our list until we added in the 3rd piece.
I don't think it was that difficult, Ross, especially with the said player that moved the line signing a long-term extension. That made things a little easier. And I just think that these 3 players that are in this top tier, they all belong together. Even though it's early on in all of their careers, they all will be the major reason why the Ottawa Senators will be a successful team one day.
And it's another easier way to just kind of compartmentalize it. The Senators have 3 top 5 picks on their roster. Those are the top 3 players on organizational rankings.
Yeah, definitely. It's no spoiler. I think when we started this, Ross, people could have told us who they think the top 3 people are, and most people would have been correct.
Let's take a quick break and get to 1, 2, 3 on our list of the most valuable players in the Senators organization. You're listening to Locked On Sens.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Jace Medical. Jace Medical provides the Jace case, which has 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use. All it takes to get the Jace case is fill out a simple online form, and in some cases, you can jump on a quick call with one of their board-certified physicians. You get ongoing care from their physicians on any treatment-related questions. It's doctor-created and doctor-recommended. Don't be caught unprepared. Everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and for their loved ones in times of need. That's why Jace Medical offers the Jace case. The Jace case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use and gives you peace of mind so that you're not just hoping that you have access to medication in hand. Jace Medical gives you that comfort. It's simple. They handle everything from the online evaluation to licensed pharmacy medication delivery and ongoing consultation and care. So you're covered. Don't get caught unprepared. Save more than $360 by getting these life-saving antibiotics with the Jace Medical. Plus, for our listeners, an additional $20 off by using promo code LOCKEDON at checkout at jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com, promo code LOCKEDON.
Today's episode is also brought to you by Shawarma Palace, the only place to go in Ottawa when you're hungry. 1997, they've stood the test of time. That's when Shawarma Palace first opened, and now there's 7 locations all across Ottawa. Pilsy, there's actually 8 locations. You know why? Because you can get Shawarma Palace right on your couch from Uber Eats. Make sure you use Uber Eats, exclusive delivery partner of Shawarma Palace, but you can also go to any of their 7 locations. I can tell you, October 13th in the evening, you can find Pilsy and I at Shawarma Palace on Rideau Street. We'll be in there with the extra garlic, the hummus, everything. It's all there at Shawarma Palace. And if you order, make sure you get the extra garlic, whether it's a sandwich or the platter. I hear they got the spicy garlic too. That's something I've got to try. But I'm a man that knows what he likes. When I have something, I like it. I go back, I get the same thing. But you know what? I've been convinced. The citizens are telling me I got to get the spicy garlic. And that's what I'll do next time I'm at Shawarma Palace. Eat like a royal today. Go to any of their 7 locations or order it online through Uber Eats. Find them on Instagram, Shawarma Palace, Ottawa. Eat like a royal today. Eat at Shawarma Palace. All right, Pilsy. The suspense is here. Unless you listened to earlier this offseason. Well, even if you did, Pilsy and I had a great debate about whether it was Tim Stützle or Brady Tkachuk as the most valuable member of the Senators. But before we get you the answer there, coming in at number 3 on our organizational value rankings, the 4th annual edition, it's Jake Sanderson.
Oh, man. Jake Sanderson, I think he has exceeded most people's expectations in his rookie season. And expectations were high, at least for Sens fans. And I think if you took a look at all of the community online that, you know, when the Sens drafted Jake Sanderson, they were like, yeah, that's a good pick, but that's a reach. Total reach. Shouldn't have gone with him at 5th. They should have gone with this guy, that guy, the other guy. Who cares? At this point, it's very clear all of those people have kind of taken back their words. And look at Scott Wheeler. He was one of them. And he had Timmy and Jake in his 2020 redraft as players 1 and 2.
Nothing wrong with that. Having Jake Sanderson on the team is just like we were on board before the 2020 draft. Hey, you need 2 forwards, got to score goals. Now the way the team's built, especially, like I can't imagine what they'd be like without Jake Sanderson and his steady presence, his elite speed, his agility, and his poise. That's really what it comes down to. At 20 years old, putting up 77 games, 32 points, was a -6 and only took 6 minor penalties in over 1,500 minutes of ice time. He's still signed for 1 more year at $925,000. And he's signed until 2031-32 now. The extension kicks in next year that will pay him $8.05 million. So we've obviously discussed Jake Sanderson quite a bit recently. The 6'3", 195-pound defenseman out of Montana, the first ever NHLer born in Montana. He's a late birthday for his draft year as well. Just turned 21 in July. What does he have for an encore, Pilsy? What is Jake Sanderson going to do this season that you think will take him another step further in this rapid development?
Well, Ross, I actually don't think this season is going to be that much of a step up from last season. I think especially sophomore seasons can be so interesting. There's the famous term sophomore slump. I'm not suggesting that that's what's going to happen to Jake, but we've done the comparison with Miro Heiskanen a couple times. And if you look at his progression, his big jump, and I don't have his stats in front of me, but I think we talked about it. His big jump wasn't until year 3 and 4, maybe even year 4, Ross. Maybe you could pull that up for me if you got it. But I think the thing is, Jake Sanderson is all he really needs to do is, and we talked about this with a couple players, is run it back. That was a great season. A successful season and where Jake Sanderson is at his best is not on the stat sheet. And that's why I think fan bases, when they saw him get this 8x8 deal and he only had 4 goals last season, some of them they think they're dunking on Sens fans being like, wow, overpayment, blah, blah, blah. Cool. You can have that opinion. That's fine. You're uneducated, I'll say, if that's your opinion, because you haven't seen what Jake Sanderson does. It's that poise. It's his penalty killing. He led the team in time on ice shorthanded. He's someone that very rarely makes mistakes, and he's killing all these penalties, Ross, but he's not taking many of them. He only had 12 PIMs last season. So this is a guy that, as a rookie defenseman, one of the hardest things to do coming into the NHL from college, nonetheless, he was able to look like a stable vet out there. And I think this year, maybe you see a little uptick in points because he's probably going to get some more power play time just based on how well he quarterbacked that top power play unit when Chychrun and Chabot were gone. So I think that's going to earn him some more time there. But I don't know. I think maybe you'll see 10 extra points, but what we're really going to see is his improvement and his awareness, all these little things that you just simply need experience to get better at. We're going to see those things improve.
Something that really stands out to me is the trust that DJ Smith had in him immediately. Not only on the penalty kill, like you brought up, but he also started only 45% of his draws in the offensive zone. He was coming out there when they needed a defensive draw. Hey, let's go to the 20-year-old. The shutdown pair was him and Travis Hamonic, and now I'm excited to see him with a more high-end defenseman at this end of his career is how I'll state that. Whereas he's not going to be having to look over his shoulder and be like, okay, is Hamonic beaver tail passing right now, or trying to get the puck right now? It's just going to be, I think him and Zub is going to be a natural progression. Zub, I mean, he kind of is what Hamonic was maybe 3-4 years ago, maybe with a little less offense, like, a big right shot defenseman who can move the puck well and will help out. So I'm just super excited to see what's next. You said 10 extra points. That's the number I want to put on. I want to see a 40-point season from Jake Sanderson. Hey, the way he's talking, he knows how important offense from the back end is. And we saw it in North Dakota. First year, 15 points in 22 games, I believe it was. Yes. Then the second year, he goes out and has 26 points in 23 games. So he had 11-point improvement in one extra game. So with that, it's crazy. He only took 5 minor penalties in 45 games in college. So this whole thing of him not taking penalties, it's not new. And you have to be so agile and not get beat one-on-one, because that's where defensemen often take penalties, right? They get their stick in a bad position and get a tripping penalty, or they have to hook so that they don't look even worse by getting beat on and end up on the highlight reel the next morning. So, man, Jake Sanderson, smooth, poise, everything you want in a defenseman. And the fact that he signed for 9 years is laughable. It really is. When you look at the room to grow, almost played 22 minutes a game, Pilsy, last season. Like, I'd like that to stay the same. Basically, you're just saying, keep doing you, boo-boo. Just do exactly what you're doing.
That's pretty much what I'm saying, because his season, I mean, you don't get an 8x8 contract after one season if it's not an incredible year, and if it's not showing signs of growth and potential that, honestly, like we mentioned before, I think by the time his contract kicks in, so not this year, next year, it'll be a steal of a deal. And I think Sens fans are all pretty comfortable in saying that as well. And the reason is, and I mentioned this before, is when Chychrun and Chabot were out. So I took a look at his sample size from March 14th to the end of the season, 16-game sample size. He was averaging...
Is that when Chabot and Chychrun were out?
I didn't do it exactly when they got injured, but that's around the time period. So I just chose a 16-game sample size. He was averaging over 25 minutes a night. and going up against other teams' top players. And he did not seem out of place. If anything, it made us all look at him and be like, wow, like he's even more ready than we thought. Like he was not overwhelmed whatsoever.
He really wasn't. Like, I feel like we're just kind of rehashing the same things because we just obviously went through Jake Sanderson when he signed that contract, but I could never get tired of talking about this guy.
Yeah.
I just want to see him play hockey again, right? Because we only have that small sample size right now, 77 games, but just knowing that his mindset is that he believes that there's more offense to his game. That's going to be my most curious moment of this season. Like there was that one goal he scored. I forget exactly who it was against, but where he just middle lane drive. And if he wants to pinch in a little bit more often, maybe he'll feel more comfortable if Artem Zub's his partner and more of a defensive minded guy than Hamonic, who I think kind of like has a mirage as a defensive minded guy. He's great on the PK. Maybe that's where he gets that reputation from. But Hamonic's like an offensive defenseman at the end of the day. I mean, you look at it, he's always trying to get pucks on net. He's always trying to, be in offensive situations with the puck on his stick. I think Sanderson's going to do even better when he's the guy who always has the puck on his stick. And the skating ability is just going to lead him to great places. So Jake Sanderson comes in at number 3 on our organizational value rankings. Where was he to start? Well, after the draft in 2020, we had him at number 4. Then we had him at number 4 again after 2021. Pilsy, we had him down 3 spots, all the way down at number 7 in our last year's list. And I think a big part of that was, not wanting to put too much pressure on him being a rookie in the National Hockey League. But now he's back up 4 spots up to number 3, Jake Sanderson. Any final thoughts on Sandy before we move on?
I think he's poised to have a really big season here. And I mentioned I don't think it's going to be a huge uptick just because it's sophomore season and it takes time to have that major uptick when his floor is already so high. But I really think we're going to see the skating become a big part of why he's successful. We're going to see him put more pucks on net from the point. And like you mentioned, I think we're going to see him pinch a lot more. And the thing with Sanderson pinching is he's such a good skater that even if he does get caught in a bad pinch, I don't think it fully takes him out of the play. He's able to catch up to a lot of guys. So I'm so excited for Jake Sanderson. Thank goodness he signed. That's another player we don't have to be nervous about not signing. So let's just have 9 more years of Jake Sanderson. Sign me up.
Let us know in the comments what you think of the Senators' perennial number 1 defenseman. He's first defenseman on our list here. Jake Sanderson comes in at number 3 on the organizational value rankings. All right, coming up next, we'll get to the top 2. We'll recap our entire list and some news and notes from the Senators rookie tournament. You're listening to Locked On Senators. All right, Pilsy. Locked On Senators, free and available wherever you download your podcast, also on YouTube. And the Patreon is still booming. We are up, looking to make it 2 full fantasy hockey leagues. So go subscribe to the Patreon right now. And if you are looking to get some Sens Central merch, don't Google it. Go to our link tree and click it. There are 4 copycat stores trying to sell Sens Central merch, Pilsy.
It's hot right now.
Too hot in the streets.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think that it would multiply this quickly, but we're going to have to start getting our cease and desist messages out a little quicker here.
Yes, we certainly are. Pilsy, do you want to do top 2 right now, or should we go through the entire list as kind of like a building suspense of how we got here?
Let's keep building suspense because I don't think listeners know who number 1 and 2 are. I think they're still guessing.
I think they're guessing the order. We put up a poll at Sens Central on Twitter, and we are in the minority. Let's put it that way, Pilsy. We're not here we love the citizens, but they're not going to influence our list. We had our list. We checked it twice, and this was the order that we initially had it in. But before we do get to that, let's recap how we got here, Pilsy. It has been a long road to get to the top, and we lost some soldiers along the way. These are the players who are no longer in the organization who are gone. I'm not going to name every single one of these guys.
4-1 out for these guys.
4-1 out for these guys and these guys. as well. Of course, they still have the rights for Alex Formenton, but just seems inevitable that he's played his last game with the Ottawa Senators. But we'll have more on that if and when that develops. Our 9th tier, Pilsy. How do you want to do this for the audio listeners? Do you want to just say kind of what the tiers are and point them in the direction of YouTube? Because I don't think anyone wants to hear us just name 60 players.
Yeah, we'll just talk about what the tiers are. So the 9th tier, these are late round draft picks. These are prospects that are not really close to being close. They're, as Jeff Merrick likes to say, these are very green bananas. Like, these are not close to ripe. They're fresh off the tree, and we're going to wait and see how things go here.
All unsigned as well.
Yes.
Then we get to our 8th tier, which was AHL depth. These are players who are signed on 2-way contracts, who are going to be veteran presences, most likely in Belleville. And then maybe they've got NHL futures as well. Then our 7th tier is still prospects. These are guys who are, I would say, sophomore. You say green bananas. These ones are starting to yellow, starting to ripen, but they definitely don't have any black dots on them yet. They're not overripe. These guys are still up and coming. A lot of 19, 20, 21-year-olds in this tier. Obviously, Mando being a goalie got a little more runway, but they're all up spots, so they come in at the 7th. You want to hit the 6th tier here?
All right, then the 6th tier. These are guys that the term I want to use, for lack of a better term, is fringe NHLers, right? Like, you can rely on them to play sometime in the NHL, but they're not going to be in your top 6 or top 4. These are guys that they're going to be plug and play guys for the most part, or a part of your 4th line or bottom pair.
Then our 5th tier is legit prospects. These guys are too legit to quit. And we've got kind of a nice mix of guys who are just graduating junior, who are in college, who are in Europe, but also guys who are in Belleville. And that tier goes all the way up to Tyler Klev and Matt Sokard as well. Then the 4th tier.
These are NHLers. Like, these guys will be in the roster. They will be performing. And I kind of look at these guys as role players, right? Like, they're not the make or break guys, but they do have a role to play. Well, I mean, you could argue Jonas Korpisalo is a make or break guy. He's going to be an X factor for this team, certainly, but he's at the top of this tier.
Exactly. And then our 3rd tier, the shortest tier, is our very good young talent. It's Shane Pinto and Ridley Gregg. That's one I can easily name off. And then the 2nd tier, Pilsy, these are the dogs on the team.
Yeah, these guys, like, they're major influences on how this team's success is going to be. And we know where they can perform. And if they all perform to their potential and stay healthy, that's a big one. Then look out, because this team has a lot of talent and this tier is very talented.
Should we unveil the winners like this?
Well, we can show one of them. Dun, 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 dun.
Jake Sanderson at number 3. Should we start here, or should I stop sharing? And here we go.
Here we go.
Coming in at number 2 on our organizational value rankings. I don't think he's going to be number 2 for much longer, but he still is this year. It's Tim Stützle.
Tim Stützle, Timmy superstar. I mean, Ross, we had this debate, you and I, who is the top most valuable player to this franchise. And I took the side of Tim Stützle. You took the side of Brady Tkachuk. Ultimately, in our organizational value rankings, we decided to go in this direction. But as you mentioned,
who wants it?
Yeah, that's a big reason why Brady is number 1 here, is his leadership and toughness. But the thing is, I think Timmy will eventually surpass Brady here. A lot of people on Twitter, you can pull up the poll now, Ross, if you want. They would argue that Timmy has already surpassed Brady. But I just think without Brady here and without what he brings to a locker room, this team, this franchise, the culture is nowhere near where it needs to be and where it is now. Like, he's the face of this franchise. He's the captain. He signed long-term. Not that Timmy didn't sign long-term as well, but it's just, without him here, I don't see the direction this team is going. Like, sure, you can put talented guys, but Brady brings a sense of purpose and direction, and he holds other people accountable, and he's just an all-around hockey guy. Like his brother, his dad, like they live and breathe hockey.
You gonna save that for when we talk about Brady Tkachuk next?
I'm just saying that's why. Yeah, good point. But I'm just saying that's why Brady is right now
Smidge.
just barely ahead of Timmy. But yes, that is a good point. Maybe we should talk about the guy we're profiling.
78 games for the young superstar last season, had 39 goals. Too bad he couldn't get that 40 plateau in game 82 there against Buffalo.
Go to FanDuel and his 40 goal numbers. What's it at, Ross? Plus 450?
Yep. I'm sending
you. I feel pretty good about that one.
Me too. 51 assists, good for 90 points on the dot, 54 penalty minutes, -3. And Pillsy, the crack research team pulled this one out. Since his 21st birthday on January 15th, he is 7th in scoring in the National Hockey League. The only players with more points than Tim Stützle in the second half of the season, 40 games was the sample size here. Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, Leon Draisaitl, Matthew Tkachuk, David Pasternak, and Mikko Rantanen. That's it. And none of those guys are 21 years old. I'll tell you that for free.
Yeah, that's incredible by Tim Stützle. And the thing is, him transitioning to the center ice position from left wing was an absolute game changer. I always kind of thought that Timmy would be much better as a centerman than a winger, and that's been proven here. And being paired with Brady Tkachuk, no, I'm not going to talk more about Brady Tkachuk. I'm going to focus on Tim Stützle here, has just allowed Timmy to do what he does best. And that's honestly just showing off his pure skill and talent. Like when the puck is on this guy's stick, it's almost, I feel like every Sens fan leans closer to their TV or like leans closer in their seat at the CTC. Like he's just so dynamic. He's a superstar. Like that's why the nickname sticks. Even fans that aren't fans of the Ottawa Senators, they can respect Tim Stützle and his talent and his game. And the thing is, he's working on building that game even more. He's become a very good penalty killer. He's someone that provides an offensive threat when the Ottawa Senators are on the penalty kill. And the amount of commitment that this guy has, the discipline, like his workout regimen last offseason when he was in Greece doing all those crazy workouts, you saw the results. Like the difference in how he looked from last season to this season was huge. Like you could tell that he put the work in and that he's dedicated to his craft and becoming a bigger, better, stronger hockey player. And it showed out on the ice as well.
Let me take you back to the day before the draft, the tweet that started it all.
Yes.
Top right corner, more like Timmy Superstar, according to LOSP. This was the quote. He's going to put fans in seats, the skating, the stick handling. It's electrifying. I wouldn't say he's a perimeter player either, man. This guy's impressed me with his grit and ability to get into the dirty areas. But the quote here, some would say he's a perimeter player, but if you put this guy in the lineup, there's going to be more fans in the seats. It's as simple as that. I stand by those words. Now, 3 years later, Pilsy, this guy is a legit superstar in the league. He's only getting better. His drive and determination to win, his team-oriented goals, it's unreal that he went 3rd overall. Now, knowing what we know now, hindsight 2020, but it is amazing that Tim Stützle is an Ottawa Senator and that he doesn't seem like he's going to be chasing the fame of a big market or wanting to be there or there. He legitimately just has one goal, to be a winner. And his competitiveness has shone through. I don't know what he's going to do for an encore, but I also know I'm not going to miss it because when that guy's on TV, it's primetime viewing.
Yeah, absolutely. And as the team's #1 center, like we're going to see a lot of him, even strength. We're going to see a lot of him on the power play. And like I mentioned, he's becoming to kill more penalties as well. He had nearly 100 penalty killing minutes as well. So, and then in the shootout, in overtime, like it's Timmy time all the time.
He even got a penalty shot goal last year against Detroit. And like, he just plays with a level of swagger. I don't know if okay, let's get crazy here.
Oh,
Tim Stützle is the most talented Ottawa Senator since. I guess Erik Karlsson's an easy. Most talented Senators forward since. Like prime Spezza?
Yeah, that's that. I was thinking Spezza, Hossa, those guys.
Yeah. I guess, yeah, Host hit 40 goals. Timmy can't say he's
Hall of
done.
Famer. Yeah.
I mean, and then like Danny Heatley was talented, but in a different way. I mean, like electrifying talent. So I'm glad you went that way. Yeah, it's wild. And obviously Alfie was a fourth line grinder that just decided to be amazing at everything too. But he'd be more in the Claude Giroux style.
Yes.
I mean, just like guys who bring it with, like, the game we saw firsthand against New Jersey was, like, to me, his coming out party at the end of that 21-22 season. 4 points, shorthanded goal on a breakaway, just the playmaking. He's got it all. He really does.
Yeah, I hate to be this guy, but there is one thing I'd like to see Timmy improve on.
Please.
If you're going to be a number one center in the NHL, you can't be fifth on your team in amount of faceoffs taken. And look, he's young. He only recently moved to the center position, but at 41.6% success rate on the faceoffs and only 486 faceoffs, we got to work on that. And now having a guy like Brady Tkachuk on your line that takes a lot of faceoffs and is more successful in the faceoff dot than
And
Timmy.
Giroux, he was playing on a line with the two best centermen on the team that just happened to both be wingers.
And that's the thing. Like, I don't want to. It's not Timmy's fault that those guys are on his wing and are better than him, but eventually that's got to be a thing where in the high leverage situations, taking faceoffs, I want it to be Timmy in that scenario. Not that, again, this is not a knock on Brady or Claude. It's just, if you're going to have a number one center and someone else has to slide in and take the biggest draw of the game, that's not exactly a great look. So that is the one area I'll look at Tim Stützle and say, I hope he's been working on faceoffs. And hey, having a guy like Claude Giroux that has taken thousands upon thousands upon thousands of faceoffs in his NHL career is such a good person to have teach you the tips and tricks of the trade. And I think that just adds more value to Claude Giroux on his team.
Tim Stützle stays at number 2 on our organizational value rankings. He was number 3 right after he was drafted in 2020. Then he's been number 2 for the last 3 years straight. I would say the gap is razor thin between number 2 and number 1, but we're sticking with Timmy at number 2 on our organizational value rankings. All right, coming in at number 1, the top dog, the leader, the captain, El Capitano, it's Brady Tkachuk.
It was tough to make this decision, Ross, but I am comfortable in saying that this was the right decision. And you mentioned it. It's razor thin between Brady and Timmy at the top here, but it cannot be emphasized enough how important Brady's intangibles are. Like, this team needed a leader so bad. They needed someone that's going to drag everyone into the fight with him. Quite literally, physically, he will drag guys into the fight with him. And they needed someone that was going to have a combination of skill, toughness, and leadership. They needed all three of those things, and Brady Tkachuk perfectly encapsulates. Is that a word? Is that a word of the day? Encapsulates all three of those things, and he does it well.
I couldn't agree more. And Pillsy, we talk about the leadership, sure, but look at the progression. The first 2 years, 45, 44 points. Okay, he's 19, 20 years old. Then in the COVID season, the pace is about 50 points, right? Because you have to add a few because you only play 56 games. So let's say 50 points, okay? He had 36 and 56. So about a 50-point pace if you're in an 82-game season.
I'll trust your math on that one.
67 last year. 83 this year. The points are coming. I think they're only going to continue to go higher. He set a career high in this. I hope you guys have some time. Career high in games played, 82 for the first time in his career. Career high in goals, 5 more than last year. Career high in assists, 11 more than his previous high. 83 points, not a math guy, but that's like 16 points more than his previous career high. He had 9 more penalty minutes than ever before. He had 3 more even strength goals, 2 more power play goals, 3 more game-winning goals, an extra power play assist, 10 extra power play assists, almost 80 more shots than he's ever had before. Wow. He's at career highs in everything. Career highs in face-off wins. Career highs in, or not in hits, but in takeaways as well. He's right up there, close to his career high from last year. He's a 2-time. Sorry. He only went to the All-Star game because of an injury last year, so it didn't count. But now, officially, an All-Star as well. This guy, he does it all. Like, he really is a five-tool player. And where I'll say the separation is between him and Tim Stützle, this is not a knock on Tim Stützle. There's probably 10 guys like Tim Stützle in the NHL, right? If not even a little bit better. But that style of player, electrifying talent. There's 2 Brady Tkachuks, and the other one's his brother.
Yeah.
He's a unicorn. They don't make them like Brady Tkachuk. The fact that he's 6'4", 220 pounds also helps. I think he's only getting bigger. You can see the photo if you're watching on YouTube. So Brady signed for 5 more years at 8.204. Like, he's got it all, man. This guy just turned 24 years old on September 16th. So if you're watching this when it's in its individual profile coming out, happy birthday, Brady, as he's just turning. He's got that married man strength, tied the knot this summer. I really think you're going to see the boy Brady Tkachuk turn into the man Brady Tkachuk this year. My only knock on him, Pillsy, and I'll let you pick it up from here. Stop fighting people who aren't worth your time. Don't fight Jared Tenorti. Don't fight Zach McEwen. No disrespect, teammate.
Yeah, I really hope he doesn't fight Zach McEwen.
Again, I mean, they've gotten 2 rounds in. But he needs to pick his spots better about who he's fighting. I'm less so about when. I know some fans are like, hey, don't fight in certain times in the game. As long as he's taken off another team's talented player as well. If he wants to fight Jamie Benn, I don't care when it is in the game. Like his fight against Shea Weber or Blake Wheeler, like those guys in their prime. I don't mind that whenever it is. I love it. That's just my preference. Hate it or love it. I don't really care, but I love it. But just stop fighting like John Marino. You don't have to fight John Marino, dude. Like let's just work on that. And that's why you brought in a McEwen or whatever. Those are the guys who can take care of that. But Brady's just wired like that, right? Like he wants to stand up for his teammates and he wants to do it right away. So I respect it, but we gotta, for the betterment of the team, let's pick our spots a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that's the thing. Like Brady has that Tkachuk intangible where he's going to piss people off and get under people's skin. And hopefully that leads to him drawing more penalties. You don't want to be in a situation where other teams' pigeons and fourth line grinders get under Brady's skin and they have a scrap, and sure, Brady beats the wheels off them, obviously. But then as you're skating to the penalty box, that guy that gets 6 minutes a night is like, I did it. I got Brady Tkachuk in the box for 5 minutes. This is going to help my team out so much. I wasn't even going to play the next 5 minutes. I wasn't even going to play the rest of the period. And what I did is I got their captain and one of their best players in the box out of the situation for 5 minutes. So you can't let other teams get that up on you.
So one stat that I'll pull up here, Brady Tkachuk was 5th in the National Hockey League in drawn penalties last year. Great. I want to keep that up. And if you look at the players who are ahead of him, McDavid is on a different level. McDavid only took 18 minor penalties last year and drew 45.
Yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous.
You can't catch him. You have to trip him or hook him to stop him. Yeah.
You have to. But everyone else in the 2 to 5 range, it's Michael Bunting, Dubois, Brad Marchand. They all took more than 10 extra minor penalties than Brady Tkachuk. Okay, Brady makes his hay because he had 8 majors. Dubois had 1, Bunting had 1, Marchand had none. And Brady also had 2 misconducts. Nobody else had any. So it's one of those where at least he's not putting his team down shorthanded as much. My mom would always text me and say, why is Brady always taking penalties? But I think he has done better at taking less minor penalties. And if he's going off at the very least, then yeah, we can nitpick about who's going off with him. But I do think he at least brings someone with him more times than not.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the beauty of it. And just like we talked about his big frame, the way Brady plays, his office is right in front of that net. He's screening goalies. He's getting rebounds. He's getting all those inner slot shots. He's someone that just creates chaos, whether it's all the shots he's taking, the work he does in front of the net, the hits he's taking, the fights, calling out other teams' entire bench, whatever it is. He's creating chaos and he's making it difficult for other teams, other players to stay focused on their game because they're just so wrapped up in what Tkachuk is doing and how he's taking control of this game. And that's where when the Senators make it to the playoffs, his value is going to be immense. Like, I don't think that's the thing. We're talking about organizational value rankings for guys that haven't even sniffed the playoffs, like when playoffs come, I think it's not going to be razor thin who's most valuable between Brady and Timmy. I think Brady's going to be leaps and bounds more valuable just because of all the intangibles he brings and the way he's going to be able to upset other teams' star players during a 7-game series while also elevating his own team's star players during those series. So, my goodness, I cannot wait to cover Brady Tkachuk on this show in the playoffs.
Oh my goodness. No excuses this year.
I don't think I'm going to have to wait much longer, Ross. I don't think it's going to be that much longer. It can't be. God.
We want it. And we want Brady
Yes.
Tkachuk to stay at number 1, which would mean that he has to take off a very hungry Tim Stützle, who wants number 1 on this list. Rumor has it he's been telling everybody he's been hoping that he could be number 1, but Brady Tkachuk not letting that happen. All jokes aside, I bet you Brady Tkachuk would be number 1 on Tim Stützle's organizational value rankings for the Ottawa Senators. Now, Brady Tkachuk started at number 2 in 2020. He moved down to number 3 in 2021, but at the time did not have a contract, so we took that into account, and now he's been number 1 in back-to-back years. Brady Tkachuk coming in at number 1, completing our organizational value rankings. All right, Pillsy. What a deep breath we need to take right now. Congratulations, man. Rest is not a weapon. The Ottawa Senators organizational value rankings season 4 is complete. And with that, we can turn our page to this upcoming season and the Sens rookie camp. And the news just came out 1 minute ago. Tyler Boucher tweaked his groin and will not participate this weekend. However, he is fully expected to be ready to go for Tuesday at main camp. So take with that what you will. No Tyler Boucher this weekend.
Yeah, that's super disappointing because you just want to see Tyler Boucher play. I don't care who it's up against, and especially you want to see him play up against his peers because that's where he dominates. Like when he was healthy in the OHL, he was dominating. It's just disappointing. That is not the news we wanted to see. I guess, Ross, if I'll try to put a silver lining on it, it's not a shoulder injury, because if that was a reoccurring shoulder injury, I think it would linger and be longer term. So hopefully this is just a minor thing and he's back on track pretty soon.
And where it's like, hey, you were in this tournament last year as well. We already have a bunch of invites, like whatever. It's just two games. But like if he's missing preseason games, it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough because then he's getting on the treadmill after everyone else is already starting to press the up button. They're on the incline a little bit. They're getting a sweat in. And he's
especially for his first pro season. Like you don't want to be playing catch up in that scenario.
No, you just can't. And obviously we're big Tyler Boucher fans. Great guy, great family. And all you said in the organizational value rankings, Pills, you didn't even care what his numbers were this year other than games played. So it's a precarious start here that Tyler Boucher will not take part in rookie tournament. Who will take part though, Pillsy? We've got a few names that we're looking at tomorrow on Locked On Senators. We will go through our 3 players to watch for, the one duo, and we are still looking for full line combinations. We might not get it until after tomorrow's show, but Ridley Gregg and Roby Järventie will be together. I like that. They've got an invite on the right wing. I would imagine that's where they had initially planned for Tyler Boucher to play, but it's go time for Roby Järventie. Like it's go time, right? 3 years pro now. It's time. We need a big year out of him.
I think we're going to see it, Ross. I think we're going to see a big year out of Roby Järventie. He's very accustomed to the AHL game now. He's got the frame. He's got the experience. I think David Bell is going to really focus on having him be a part of a major part of Belleville's offense. And I've got all the faith in Roby Järventie that he can become an elite goal scorer. Now, at what level? That remains to be seen. He's still very young in his development, but that release, the one-timer on the power play, how quickly he gets it off his stick is a great skill to have, and that should lead him places for sure.
So the Ottawa Senators rookies will take off to Buffalo right after their skate today. They're probably on route to the, I don't know if they take the plane. You think they should be taking the plane though? They shouldn't be stuck in the bus, but a lot of these guys do that for junior anyways.
Yeah.
However, I digress. They'll get to Buffalo, and they will play New Jersey at noon Eastern tomorrow. They will play Pittsburgh on Saturday at noon Eastern, and then they will play Montreal at 1:30 p.m. on Monday. Stay tuned for next week's schedule. I'm off on a little wife weekend before the season starts, so I get back late Monday. So we might take Monday off unless news breaks. Pilsy and Martian might have to jump on if Shane Pinto news comes over, or a trade for that matter, because Pilsy, Pierre Dorion, my final thoughts on today's show. Pierre Dorion was at Mark Sutcliffe, the mayor of Ottawa's breakfast this morning, says all but one piece of our young core is signed, and we hope to have it done by training camp next week. Well, TikTok, Pierre, because we know Pinto's a big golf guy. I don't think he wants to miss the golf tournament either. Okay, let's get this done the weekend.
I thought he was talking about Igor there.
Yeah, I mean, Igor needs a contract too. Like, these guys better get in camp. We need an update on the Igor situation. I'll see what I can do. I'll talk to my people.
All right. Final thoughts for me, Ross, is happy trails to Nick Holden. Official retirement announcement, but he is staying in the game. He will be a part of the Vegas Golden Knights player development. I mean, I think that's a perfect spot for him. Like, this is a guy that is so likable. Sens fans, I don't think, have a single bad thing to say about him. He played his role here very well, and he's just a fun guy that I think will really loosen up a lot of players coming into the NHL and coming into camps and being very stressed and nervous about how they do. But a guy like Holdy, he'll be goofing around, making jokes, but also has a wealth of experience that young guys can lean on, and I think he's going to do very well in that role. Honestly, Ross, I'm a little sad he didn't take some sort of role in Ottawa. I would have loved to have him here, but as a guy that was early on with Vegas, I think it makes a lot of sense for him to be there.
Yeah, it totally does. And as we said at the end of the year, we're like, yeah, I think, the 2 years they played his course, we'd rather, have Hamonic in that seventh defenseman type role. But we had our reference letter all ready to go for Nick Holden, right? And glad they didn't even call us. They didn't need it, but they were able to hire him. So that's all good. So busy weekend, even though I'm going away. We're recording 3 shows today, and those will all be ready for you throughout the weekend. We've got today's episode you're listening to right now. We've got an episode tomorrow that's going to drop at 6 a.m. 3 players to watch for at Rookie Tournament. That episode did really good when we did it last year. Just a little primer. All the games, by the way, are available on the Buffalo Sabres YouTube channel. You know what? I will put a description in the description of today's show and tomorrow's show. I will put a link to the Buffalo Sabres YouTube.
Man of the people, Ross.
Making it nice and easy for everyone to go check that out. And then the return. Pilsy, he put it off as long as he could. He's the champion, the reigning winner of the Ring of Honor. We will have our top moments from last season as our Ring of Honor to do this weekend as we turn the page here as a transitional phase into year 5 of the Locked On Senators podcast. For today, though, we say goodbye. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.